The American Lung Association in D.C. released their annual State of the Air report. It examines the impact air pollution has on local residents. And joining me today with the results of that report, we want to welcome Aleks Casper, Director of Advocacy for the local American Lung Association. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's start by telling us a little bit more about the study and what you found.
Sure. So this is our 26th annual study. We do this study every year, and it looks at about 3 years. So it looks at years 2021 to 2023, and it really examines three main components, I should say: ozone, or smog, and then particle pollution. So we look at what we call soot, and that is done in short 24-hour spikes and annual spikes. And I think the eye-opening thing for the report this year is that nearly half, so 46%, 156 million people live in a place that has one failing grade, and 42.5 million people live in a place that has 3 failing grades. So I think it's a real opportunity for us to kind of take a look at the air we breathe and think about the things that we can do to help maintain the clean air and clean the air up.
Those numbers are discouraging when you put it that way. Looking at the big picture, I know in your data you did consider the wildfires that we had in 2023 that were actually in Canada, but all that smoke was blowing along the eastern seaboard, and that impacted the data. How much of that played a role or skewed the information you got back? And I know it was for a 3-year period, but did that skew some of the data to make it look even worse than it actually is?
Absolutely. I think it absolutely played a role. For a lot of us who live on the East Coast, that was the first time that we had really experienced wildfire smoke. It was the first time, we had to make decisions. For example, my son has asthma, and we had to make a decision about does he go to lacrosse practice or not go to lacrosse practice, right? We had to check him as he walked out the door just to double check make sure he had that an inhaler, his rescue inhaler. But I do think while it does play an impact, the wildfires are something that our friends, family, neighbors on the West Coast deal with on a regular basis, and it does impact numbers, in the report every year. I think, it impacted the East Coast, who hadn't seen these wildfires in the past, did impact us a little bit more. I will say that the wildfires have been more extreme, and with the extreme heat, it makes it very hard to clean up the air that we have.
So given this information, what can we do with it? What are the next steps that we can do to perhaps take action and promote change?
So I think there are a couple things, right? There are things that we can do at a local level from a local policy perspective, to look to cut our emissions, to make transition to zero emission vehicles and including trucks if we can. The other piece of this is as an individual, I think we need to be very aware of the air that we breathe. So checking airnow.gov, especially if you are someone who lives with a lung condition, a lung disease, and being aware of what that air quality looks like. And then also, I think from an individual perspective, there are things that we can do, right? Walk, bike, use public transportation when we can. If our budget allows, convert to zero emission vehicles or appliances. So those are things that we kind of as individuals can do. And then also from a broader policy perspective. I think if people want to learn more or other ways to engage, they can visit us at lung.org/SOTA.
And finally, before we let you go, Aleks, I know the EPA, like many other government agencies, is experiencing cuts and layoffs. What are some of the immediate impacts that you are seeing that has affected the work you do when it comes to advocating for cleaner air?
Well, and I think part of the report is calling, for action. To protect the EPA. We know that the EPA does really important work. They set the standards that we, for the air that we breathe, right? And if there aren't people there to monitor the air quality, that puts us all at risk. And so there is an action available at lung.org/SOTA for people to help join us in protecting the EPA.
All right, Aleks Casper from the local American Lung Association, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.